5-4 Colorado Buffaloes return home to take on Washington State, 8-1 football team. Washington State's only loss was a 3-point loss at USC, a game they led going into the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. At some point, I think somebody's going to upset this Washington State team, but right now they're the class of the Pac-12.
Yeah, in fact, I wrote it earlier this week that right now Washington State is the best team in the Pac-12, which means they better watch out because how many teams this year have we said, yeah, they might be the best in the Pac-12, and they've all got 3 losses. I mean, Stanford, Washington, Oregon, USC, even this CU team at one point, 5-0. So. Yeah, Washington State's almost kind of doomed at this point, being the lead dog. So at some point it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen this week, but I expect Washington State to lose at some point. I mean, they kind of do that typically, don't they? Right. They kind of start really fast and lose somewhere along the line. Now they got Washington later on. Maybe that's it. But who knows? Maybe it's this week.
They graduate Luke Falk at quarterback last year. Tyler Helinski, horrible situation. He commits suicide, and you think, okay, this is maybe the 1 year Mike Leach isn't going to be able to reload that quarterback position, which he's done dating back to his days at Texas Tech. It's really remarkable what he's done there. Yeah. And Gardner Minshew comes in as a transfer and is leading the country in passing yards this year. Mike McIntyre's talked a lot this week about the O-line plays really aided him there, but it's unbelievable how they can have these guys year after year put up all these numbers. I know it's partly a product of the system, but it's still mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling, especially you look at Gardner. He was not even the full-time starter at East Carolina last year and was considering going to Alabama, knowingly being a backup so he could get started on his coaching career. Mike Leach calls him and says, hey, do you want to lead the country in passing? He's coming in here leading the country in passing. So he's been unbelievable. I mean, anybody that's watched Washington State, it's not, I mean, yes, maybe it's a product of the system, but he plays that system really well and makes really good throws, gets them in good decision, and I watch his press conferences. That kid's got so much confidence, and he's so much fun, and he's just kind of embraced being at Washington State. It's kind of fun to watch that environment, and after what Washington State went through, you kind of feel good for him a little bit.
CU's been on a little bit of a running back regret tour. Jamar Jefferson is a guy they recruited really heavily, leading the Pac-12 in rushing yards at Oregon State. And Max Borhe was actually committed to Colorado for a while. It's crazy to think they could have had those two guys in the same running back class. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20. But for Max, I mean, you got to just credit the kid for making a smart decision. That system fits him really well, and he's making a lot of plays as a true freshman.
It does. I mean, every single game he's making plays and scoring touchdowns and making big plays. It's good to see him doing that. I know he had some injuries in high school, but he's really fit into that system. I mean, James Williams is their top running back there, but Max, they've always got 2 or 3 running backs, and Max is clearly that number 2 guy for them. And as a true freshman, he's been pretty impressive. And yeah, it might be nice to have him here.
Defensively, they rank 4th in total defense, 6th in scoring defense, so pretty solid group, better than some of those early defenses we saw with Mike Leach at Washington State. We've heard they are smaller up front. They're going to stunt and move a lot on the defensive line, which Steven Montez is going to be a challenge for the offensive line, an offensive line that's already been struggling as is.
Yeah, and that was another area that I thought was going to dip was their defense. They lost their defensive coordinator to Ohio State, bringing a new one. They lost Hercules Mataafa from last year, who was pretty fantastic, and they've still continued to play some pretty solid defense. And so it is a challenge. I mean, this is a Washington State team that I know it was cold and rainy, but in Pullman really had its way with Colorado last year. So, it's a challenge for this offense as well.
We haven't gotten any definitive word, predictably so, on Laviska Shenault this week. Evan Worthington, we still don't know. So we're going to have to wait for pregame on those guys.
Right.
It sounds like Laviska Shenault, there's a really good chance he plays on Saturday, though. So I'm kind of going in with the expectation that number 2 is probably going to be out there.
Well, when he starts the week throwing on Instagram the return of 2 Live, and you got a family member saying, can't wait to see you ball out on Saturday, that kind of tells you a little something. But, I actually saw Laviska at the women's basketball game the other night, and I know it's not playing football, but, walking around, going upstairs, and didn't look injured at all. So it's easy for me to say that, but to me, he looked healthy, and I guess if I had to predict right now, I would say he'd be back.
If a football team ever needed a spark, this is the football team that needs it. I have a gut feeling, Brian, that Colorado's going to win on Saturday. Mm-hmm. I can't predict that because of this program's record against ranked teams under Mike McIntyre, their record when they're trying to gain bowl eligibility, and the secondary woes against a team that's going to air it out. I can't do it. But the wackiness in the Pac-12 this year, I don't think anything should surprise anybody in the Pac-12 going forward this season based off what we've seen so far. And I don't know. Again, it's just a gut feeling. But again, it's hard to actually back that up with the analytics and looking at it analytically.
Right. Well, I mean, we basically had this conversation 2 weeks ago in a different way. That we said it makes no sense to pick Oregon State to come in here and win the game because just nothing pointed towards them even having a shot to win that game, and they come in and win the game. There's nothing that says to me on paper that Colorado can win this football game. I mean, their secondary has been torched. Now they're playing the leading passer in the country. Gardner should throw for 8 touchdowns, right? That's what you think. Their offensive line has struggled. They're playing a pretty active defensive front. They should struggle there. So, yeah, none of it makes sense, which is why it probably could happen.
So with that said, what is your score prediction?
Well, I'm like you in that, I can see it happening just because of the wackiness of everything, and it doesn't make sense, which is why it could. But I can't go there. I can't pick CU to win this thing. I'm going to go Washington State. I think Gardner has a good day, but I think the Buffs show some fight like they always do, and I'm going to pick Washington State 38-28.
38-28. I'm kind of operating with the assumption that Laviska Shenault will play.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play, I think maybe a double-digit loss, but I'll say Washington State 38-35, so a high-scoring affair at Folsom Field, and we'll see. You're a big fan of Mike Leach and his press conference. I wouldn't say tirades, but he kind of goes into different areas.
Tangents.
Tangents.
Right.
What are some of your favorite Mike Leach tangents of all time?
I think the best one's got to be when he gave the marriage advice to a reporter.
My wisdom would be you have to stay out of the way. Now, and I wish you a very happy marriage, and I'm sure you'll have one. But I'm just telling you, when it comes to marriages, the women lose their mind. Your fiancé is going to lose her mind. Your mother-in-law is going to lose her mind. Your mom is going to lose her mind. Several of your sisters and female relatives are going to lose their mind, and they're gonna barrage you with constant questions. What should we wear? And then, which of course my answer was I don't care. And then, what color should the invitations be? I don't care. What should we have for dessert? I don't care. Should we seat this way or that way? I don't care. But see, I don't care is not satisfactory at all. And you're going to get caught in a catch-22, and I'm certain that you already have. And that catch-22 is, well, I want you to be a part of this too. So what color invitations? All right, the blue ones. Well, I kind of like the tan ones. Okay, the tan ones then. Oh, you're just saying that because you want this over with. You're not even thinking about it, which is of course true. And then, what do you want for dessert? I was thinking of strawberry shortcake. Oh, okay. Yeah, strawberry shortcake would be good. Well, what about the blueberry pie? Well, I like the blueberry pie. We could have the blueberry pie. Well, I thought you said you wanted the strawberry shortcake. And it's just going to go back and forth, and they're going to play keep away from you until after you're married. So what you need to do is you need to work late hours, work late, be very nice and supportive, and but they're going to play keep away from you, and there's no answer you can give that is going to be satisfactory or correct. And if you successfully please a few of them, the others will still be, oh well, I just don't feel like he's that interested. Yeah, okay, so you need to work late, go in the back room and read a lot of books. You have to go take the groomsmen out, so you make sure that they march in just right and they know exactly, these swell outfits that you picked out or whatever, however you're doing it. And in the end, you'll wish you eloped. But nevertheless, you need to find excuses that they'll buy to be as far out of harm's way as you possibly can. But take comfort in knowing that once the ceremony's over, that life will get progressively better from there, even though there's some adjustment.
That's a pretty good one, the dating advice. There was one at Texas Tech where he talks about how they were distracted by their fat little girlfriends. That's a classic one. This week was a pretty good one, actually. If anybody hasn't seen it, he was asked about live mascots, and he spoke for several minutes about Ralphie, and now he thinks Ralphie is a baby male, so he's wrong there, but he's still, he said really short of having a live grizzly, you can't have a better mascot. So it was kind of funny, and he's entertaining, I think. I don't know how much, if that would wear thin when you're covering Washington State, but for me on the outside, when you go watch it every once in a while, it's pretty entertaining.
Going back to his Texas Tech days, he went to the local news station, did the weather, talked about his favorite weather phenomenon being when it rains mud. He's an interesting guy. He can be a bully, though. Actually, after Colorado came back and beat them at John Embry's second and last year, he was asked a really good question about their time management down the stretch because it was bad, and he completely undressed the reporter for about 5 straight minutes. And I don't know. I don't know if I want to cover that on a beat, but it's fun in little snippets here and there. Yeah,
it is. And there was earlier this year, I would watch some press conferences, and he had some beef with one of the reporters there because every time you'd hear this person ask a question, he would say next question, and threaten to leave a press conference. So he'll do those things, and I've had a chance to talk to him a couple times at Pac-12 Media Day. And nice enough guy for those few minutes that you're walking with him. But I don't know if I'd want to do that day in and day out. That might be difficult.
All right, Colorado, another chance to try to gain bowl eligibility. We'll see if they can get it done on Saturday afternoon.